What's up, everyone? I'm Travis, and you're watching another episode of Upgraded RC. Welcome back, guys. If you watched the last video, which was video number 1 or upgrade number 1 for our bomber upgrade series, you would remember that we replaced all of our plastic links with the Incision 1/4-inch stainless steel link set, which was awesome, guys. That really made a huge difference. If you have not done this yet to your bomber, you are depriving yourself of having a real bomber. It really did make that big of a difference. So if you haven't replaced your stainless steel links yet, go do that. You will thank me very much. Now, I told you that kit came with all the upper and lower links. Well, it did, but it didn't come with the lower rear links. Why? Because there is no lower rear link. This is called a trailing arm here, and it is also made out of the same plastic that they made all the other links out of, and we will be replacing it just like we did all the other links. What are we going to be replacing it with? We are going to be replacing it with the best of the best, guys. I am proud to say we are putting the Vanquish anodized aluminum adjustable trailing arms in here that have the integrated pivot balls in them. These are awesome. This is, without further ado, guys, let's get into this. I want to rip this open and show you what's in here and get these on here. I'm going to show you how to set them up, how to adjust them, how to install them, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it after that. So stay tuned. So here's our bag. And for all you guys that are interested, let's show you the part number here. It is VPSO7351. Now, I happen to know that if you get the 7350, they come in black. The 51 is called clear. And I can't remember what the other part number is, but they also make a gray as well. All right, let's see what we got inside here. Take this off. And do I have to cut it? I do have to cut it. All right, so it looks like they gave us, there's both of our trailing arms. And these are gorgeous, guys. They did a really good job anodizing this aluminum. It looks like all the machining quality is great. All their countersunk holes for the screws came out nice. This is very nice quality product for sure. What do we got here? Oh, they had to separate our arms, huh? Look, they even put the two arms, the trailing arms, in a different bag so that you wouldn't scratch one of them up. I think that's awesome. We're going to scratch them up when we get them out on the trail anyways, but that's pretty good. So it looks like they give you a lot of plastic here, and you've got some instructions, and then you've got your little screws, as well as your socket screws and your pivot balls. And then these are the retainer clips here that are going to hold the pivot balls in place. And this is also how you adjust the tension on your pivot balls, which we're going to get into here. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and assemble our trailing arms so we can get them mounted up on our bomber. Now, to assemble our trailing arms, you're going to need a 1.5 millimeter hex driver for your set screw, and you're going to need a 2 millimeter hex driver for your lock screw. The only other thing you're going to need is some Loctite. Now, I'm going to use blue, guys. You can use red if you've got a serious problem with these screws backing out on a regular basis, but if you don't, I would just stick with the blue. Remember, these screws are to be removed so that we can adjust our pivot balls. So we don't want them locked in there so tight we can't ever get them out again. You're going to want to be able to remove these screws or at least loosen them up to adjust your pivot ball. So I'm going to go with blue. We'll try it out. If I have a problem, I'll go to red. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take your pivot ball and go ahead and drop it down into the spot right here where it wants to be. Make sure it's all the way down and make sure it moves freely. Next, you have your retaining clip right here. And if you can notice, on this side, it's got a raised edge closest to where the pivot ball is going to be. See, if you flip it over to the other side, it's flat. So you want it to go in there like this. You want it to drop in so the flat side is to you and the raised side is to the pivot ball. Now, also when you're dropping it in there, if you'll notice, this edge right here, this corner is just a little bit further than the other side here. Well, that matches up with this, so that's the direction that it goes. The longer side goes this way on the top. And one other thing, when you're dropping this in here, you're going to want to take and drop the side with your pivot ball down first and hug up against the pivot ball, and then drop the other side down, and it'll sit down nice and flush, just like that. It shouldn't be sticking up at all. If you do it the other way, I noticed if you take and put it in like this, so that you stick the back side in first and drop it down, it doesn't want to go, and you can move your pivot ball and it won't seem to go. Also, if you get it cocked in there wrong, it won't sit down flush all the way. See how it's not flush all the way right now? You want to make sure you get that flush all the way. So your pivot ball's all the way down, rotates good, drop it in here like this, and push down so that it's flush. You want to make sure that's flush. There's nothing sticking up. Okay, so next, we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of Loctite on our button screw here. And what that does is that's going to come in from the back side. See this recessed edge right here? It's going to drop right down in here, and you're going to tighten it up that way. Only don't tighten it up yet. You just want to put this in and snug it. Because what we're going to do after that is we're going to take a little bit of Loctite and we're going to put it on our set screw here. And we're going to run this in until we get the correct adjustment on our pillow ball here, which I'll show you what that is in just a second. So let's go ahead and get some Loctite on those and get those in there, on all of them. All right, so you got all your screws sitting here. You've got Loctite on everything. And by the way, guys, I didn't mention this, but if you're putting Loctite on anything, let it set for 24 hours, or you might as well not even put Loctite on it at all. It takes that long to set up. And did you see the size of these set screws, how small they are? I would definitely recommend putting Loctite on. If you drop them out on the trailer in the rock somewhere, you are never going to find those. Those are super small. So use your Loctite, let it dry up for about 24 hours. Next, now that we've got all our screws and everything in here, what you're going to do is take your 2mm Allen and drive your lock screw down until it stops gently, and then I want you to back it off a quarter of a turn. Do this on all of them. Now we're going to do the same thing to the set screw. We're going to take the set screw until it stops gently, and then back it off about a quarter turn. Now the reason why we're doing that is because we don't want these screws tight while we're trying to adjust the tension on our pivot ball. So what you're going to do is make sure your pivot ball works really good, it's free, it moves good, and then you're going to take your 1.5, you're going to stick it in your set screw, and you're going to turn your set screw until it feels like you're starting to get some tension on your pivot ball here. Now you in no means want this to be tight, guys, so your pivot ball doesn't move at all. You still want it to have tension, you just don't want it to be sloppy in there and flopping around. That's what this retainer clip is for with the adjustment, is to keep that perfect adjustment on your pivot ball so there's no flopping around, it won't wear out this quick that way, and it's going to give you better performance. So set that up to where you've got just a little bit of tension on it. You can feel there's some tension there, and then go ahead and take your 2mm and put it in your button screw here, or your button head, I'm sorry, and lock that one down tight. Leave the other one where it's supposed to be, but lock your button head down tight, and that's pretty much it. So that's nice and tight. I can feel tension here, but it still moves freely. It's not too loose, but it's not too tight. Go ahead and do that to all of them, get your correct tension, and then we'll go ahead and install them. All right, guys, now I noticed I didn't need very much on my set screw at all. If you just take and drop your pivot ball in here and put your retainer clip in, and then go ahead and tighten this button head down, that might do it for you. For me, I noticed that when I went ahead and tightened this up until it kind of got snug, and then went back and tightened this up, it made it so tight that I couldn't move my pivot ball at all. You want this thing to be free, just as loose as it can possibly be. It's not tight at all. So if you do that and that works for you, great. Then just go ahead and run your set screw down until it stops. That way it doesn't fall out. But if you need it, if you've got a little bit of play in there back and forth in this direction, then go ahead and loosen up your lock screw and take your set screw down a little bit more, and then tighten your lock screw back up again. Make sure after you get done tightening up your lock screw, you still got free play. If this is binding in any way, then your set screw is too tight. So that's pretty much it, guys. Make sure this is tight. Make sure this is run down so there's no play and it can't go anywhere or vibrate out. And that's about it. Make sure all these are free, and we'll go ahead and drop it in. Now these are a left and a right, guys, and they can go in either direction. It really doesn't matter. I prefer to keep my retainer clips to the inside of the chassis and my button head screws to the outside. That way You're seeing this nice button head screw. It looks pretty good, you know. You don't want to see a retaining clip over here on this side. Plus, if it's on that side, it might take a little bit more damage if it catches on a rock or something. So I would just go ahead and put these to the inside. And there's only 2 screws to hold these on, and then the lower link for your shock. Let's go ahead and get that going. So once you get your wheel and tire off, the only thing you have to remove is this Allen here that connects to your axle, and this Allen here which connects to your chassis. The other one is right here. That is the bolt for your lower link on your shock. Now if you'll notice, there are 2 holes right here where we can mount our shocks. We also have 2 mounting positions on the top up here as well. So you could run 2 shocks in here if you wanted to. If you're just going to run one, you have the option of putting it in the first hole or the second hole. Now on Vanquish, their controlling arms has 3 holes. So you could actually run both shocks on the same side, and you could pick your shocks. If you wanted to be more vertical, you could go to this hole and this hole. If you wanted them to be more of an angle and give you that lower center of gravity, you could go to this hole and this hole. So that's awesome that they gave you 3 holes in here to mount up 2 shocks on the angle that you want. What we're going to do is we're going to run with 1 shock, and we're going to put it in our center hole right here to give us the angle that we want. We could also go to the third one if we really wanted to drop this right on the ground and get some low center of gravity. So when you're putting it back together, just go ahead and pick the one that you want depending on the ride height that you're looking for, and let's go ahead and put them on. Now remember, don't strip out these Allens when you're putting them back in. They're just metal bolts going into plastic, okay? So here is your stock plastic or nylon trailing arm, whatever you want to call it. Now this is the reason why we replace this, guys. Number 1, because it's plastic, but number 2, because it has a very weak link in it. You see these 2 X's right here? This is called webbing. Now this is Axial's attempt to fix the problem that they have with their trailing arms. What is the problem? Well, right here, this connects to the chassis, and either in this hole or this hole, whichever hole you select for your shock. Now your shock is pushing down pretty hard right here with the rod in it. It's pushing down, and you're attached over here to your chassis. So it creates a really weak link right here in the center. And I don't know why they made this so thin right here. It's really not necessary. But that's what they were trying to do by putting this extra webbing in here, was make this a stronger point. It's always about 1 inch off this pivot point to right here. These just start bowing and flexing, and eventually they'll just break. They're very, very weak. They're notorious. They do it on everything they put this trailing arm on. That's why we replaced this trailing arm with our Vanquish. We don't want no problems when we're out there on the trail or rock racing. That's why we did this, not for looks, just so you guys know what's going on there. All right, guys, well, that was a pretty easy install. I can't complain about that. Now we have gotten rid of all of our plastic links. We don't need these plastic links anymore. Now we've got stainless steel in the front. We've got our aluminum trailing arms in the rear. We have a lot better foundation for this platform to be able to push it harder. We are going to be way more durable. We're probably going to be able to push it harder to get a little bit more flex out of it. It was just great all in all around. There was no way that this was a bad decision. It's just going to make everything last a lot longer. Well, guys, that's probably going to wrap it up for this video. Once again, thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it, guys. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to comment in the section down below. I'll get back with you. May not be right away, but I promise I will get back with you. I'll answer your questions to the best of my ability. If I can't answer it, I'll tell you where to go to get it answered. You know, that's another thing, guys. We've been out for about a month now. I have a new group called Upgraded RC Bashers, Crashers, and Crawlers. Maybe go there and join the group. Then you can ask questions in there, and maybe I'll answer your question for you. Maybe someone else will. Maybe a whole bunch of people will give you their 2 cents on the question that you have. You can also post videos and pictures, and you can see everybody else's videos and pictures and see what they're doing on their rigs, and maybe grab some ideas for your own and run with it, you know? Plus, I also post local events there, so you kind of know what's going on for the weekend. It's just a great place. If you're bored, you can just get on and surf around and see what everybody else is doing. It might get you interested to get back into your RC adventures again. Well, guys, I am Travis. You're watching Upgraded RC. Our very next video is right around the corner. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what it is. We're going to be putting a Curie anti-rock sway bar in the rear of this that is meant for the Yeti. It doesn't fit, but you know what? It's not going to take very much to make it fit. It's super simple, and I'm going to show you guys how to do that. That's coming up next. All right, guys. Like I said, I'm Travis. You're watching Upgraded RC. Peace out.